Hi, this is Matt Lachlan with Coeur d'Alene Real Producers. This is our uncut video interview with Joel Elgee, our cover story agent. Chances are you already saw a shorter version of it. In this video, you're going to get to know Joel at a personal level. He's one of the top producing real estate agents in the Spokane, Coeur d'Alene markets. He's ranked very high in Coldwell Banker nationally. And so in this interview, you're going to get to hear more about him personally, his family, what he loves, what makes him tick. I hope you enjoy.
So I grew up in the Spokane Valley, and my family does have some long ties to the area. Going back to, I had a great-grandfather who built a house that still stands at, I think, 501 Coeur d'Alene Avenue. Almost made an offer on that house about 12 years ago, but didn't at the urging of my grandpa, who that was his grandpa. So my grandpa's grandpa, yeah, my great-great-great. Anyway, so that was like 1890 something. And then my mom was born and raised in Coeur d'Alene. And so, and her family, I found out from her actually to kind of prepare to talk to you. So her family was part of the Finnish community, you know, Finland Finnish. And they had a little enclave in Coeur d'Alene. That's what brought them to Coeur d'Alene. So my mom's grandpa brought the family in 1913 to Coeur d'Alene to be part of this because they knew other Finns in Coeur d'Alene. So yeah, a long time there. And then I grew up in the Spokane Valley, and you know, and I went to Central Valley High School, but you know, a lot of mixing time spent, you know, mixed between North Idaho and Spokane. You know, have a bunch of great fond memories of being out on the lake with family and friends. You know, the boat cruises with my grandparents. You know, they had a boat slip, and you know, I remember my grandpa let me, you know, the wheel to the boat felt like it was, you know, one of those giant sailboat, you know, cutters that, but you know, it was a regular sized. So just, you know, a lot of fond memories, and getting, you know, my friend, you know, whose family had a cabin on Coeur d'Alene Lake, and, you know, learning how to ski pretty much and all that stuff. So the 8th grade or 9th grade, I was at a girls volleyball match, sitting next to a friend of mine, and we were playing this, you know, rival school. It was actually kind of a, you know, we didn't think much of that middle school. This was a junior high at the time, but anyway, saw this real cute looking, kind of exotic looking gal. She's Italian. And I loved her shoes, black Nikes. Still generally remember. She actually has a version now that are a low top. This was like a, oh good. This was like a mid top. But anyway, loved her shoes, loved, you know, just kind of, oh man, she, you know, moves well, athletic. Anyway, and mentioned to my friend, like, hey, I think I'm gonna date her someday, or, you know, some statement to that effect. And then met her more formally at the fair, I think the next year, year and a half later. And was just kind of, boy, she seared herself in my mind. And then, you know, as you're starting high school and all these middle schools are coming together and blending, it was like, you know, somebody asked me, who do you have your, you know, or whose? And it was like, she was always kind of like, ooh, in my mind. So that was how you met. Yeah, how I met and how we got to know each other a little bit. My kids, so they're 4, 6, and 8. They're just a ton of fun. You know, we have a blast together. I mean, I've kind of always thought I was a, you know, kind of a kid at heart. You know, I've always felt that way. So we, you know, we're buddies, but just enjoy the heck out of each other. So they're fun. I've got a daughter, Josephine, she's 4 now. My son, Gino, is 6. And then Leona, our oldest, is 8. So they're all, you know, have their own fun personalities, and you know, they just such a neat balance to each other of, you know, somebody likes this or somebody's strengths are different than the others. So really enjoy that, just getting to watch them grow, and it's been awesome. I love spending time with them. To me, it's, you know, we may have talked about it before, but I'm trying to be really efficient at work, because if I'm not at work and I'm not a real, I get to know people at the office and we chit chat, but it's not, I'm there to be efficient and effective, because if I have spare time, I want to be home, spending time with the family, not, oh yeah, letting things carry on at work, or yeah, it turned into happy hour, just kind of, I'm a little, and people, I've been called, hey, real professional. Now that's not all for everybody, people like that buddy atmosphere, and I, definitely have made friends with a lot of clients, but I definitely lean a lot more heavily on the professional side, tangent, but that kind of I started really young in real estate. I was, 22. So people think like, what am I doing? I'm buying a house from this guy that looks like, he's maybe, still in high school. So like, being very competent, being very professional was how I overcame that general, like, ooh, eyes open, surprised, probably hesitant mentality of the people sitting across from me as I'm, hey, let's try to ink a deal on your new home, but anyway, so that's a little my style. And then, so for me, I'm always driving home to be to the, trying to drive figuratively and literally to be home with the family. The Christmas thing was just kind of that, it's how things click together in life. It's like, oh yeah, you get that sense of, purpose in life as you have kids, and the present, the Christmas Day thing is just like, you wake up every morning, it's the Christmas present that, can you believe I got that skateboard that I've been dreaming about for 6 months? The difference is, this skateboard is like, after 7 days, you're just like, the skateboard's in a closet and you never play with it again. The kids, it's that ongoing every morning, like, hey, I can't wait for these little buggers to get up, because I've got some fun in store. There's my live toys ready to play with, so.
They're different.
Yeah, and that fun variety, but it's like replaying that Christmas scene. So that was, I think, where that came from. I went to school at University of Washington, went to the business school, and jumped into real estate, very shortly thereafter. But there was a little stint in there that I had been pretty much hired to start in real estate, but I wasn't going to start for 6 or 7 months. So that's a funny little. I was delivering pizzas. I was raking leaves with my good buddy just, for cash. It was kind of a funny little semi-retirement before you really start working period of my life, which was, I have fond memories of it. And then one of my close friends who works in the movie industry in LA calls me up and says, hey, can you get down here tomorrow? I've got a job for you. And somehow, that was, I was not, this wasn't, Travelocity. It was like, okay, you called up, got a flight. The next day I quit my Pizza Hut delivery job, or Domino's delivery job, from the set of the movie, and, spent a month there and had a blast learning all about the industry and learning how to work hard. They worked us a lot of long hours, and so that was a great experience. The shimmer wears off a little bit, when you're just like, oh, there's cameras around and there's actors and actresses, but we've got a job to do, and it starts early and runs late, and you can't sit down, and funny things like that. But it was great. They did give me the opportunity to kind of stay on and give a shot at the movies, but this getting into real estate was a bigger picture. So my aunt and uncle helped me get a job at the Coeur Resort as a valet. So I was a car parking machine over there. We wore knickers, back in the day there, and so that's what we did as valets. But so I got to know Gary Schneidmiller. He was a real regular at the resort. We knew Mr. Schneidmiller, and he had a special key tag. He was a regular client that we tried to take good care of. So he was a big Washington State booster, Cougars and the Huskies, big rivals. And so he and I had a quick and easy banter back and forth with Cougars versus Huskies, and got to know each other, and then got to know each other, a little bit deeper on that level, and just, hey, what are your interests? And he'd ask me, I, in hindsight, realized, he's always got a recruiting hat on no matter what, even though he's not a real salesy guy. But I had expressed some interest in real estate, and so he had said, hey, if you're serious about real estate, come and look me up and give me a business card. And I held on to the business card for probably 4 years, in my little special treasure box of, things I may need moving forward in life, and I did. So I called him up as I was getting close to graduation and had decided to relocate back home. Staying in Seattle was really tempting. I had a cool internship, but family here, and my nephew at the time was just born, and he, my sister was, like 19 when she had him, so it was, kind of a big family thing because everyone was trying to help out when he was born. So a lot of those things brought me back. Lisa, my wife, who was also back in Spokane as well. Then called up Gary, and took me a bunch of interviews, but they, and finding the place for me, because starting out as just a commission sales guy was not something I was, really interested in. Kind of like, well, you work for nothing, then you make something if you sell. It didn't make sense to me at the time. So I started on the Greenstone sales team, working exclusively in new construction. So 3 years, it was just awesome experience. Learned all about, new construction, homes, interactions with people, contracts. I kind of said like that 3 years was like having 10 years of normal experience, because the volume of what we were trying to handle, and then just working with people, working through things, that come up in the construction of a house. It was also timing wise, where we were coming, 2003 pretty much to 2006. So those were some really active years in real estate, but 2006 was the start of the downturn. But based on the model, even our compensation model with Greenstone, I wasn't seeing all the spoils of this great market, which was good, because then when I went independent of the Greenstone sales team in 06, I wasn't having this major shock of like, oh, the market's down. And it was just like, okay, got to go out and make a house payment. And so, it started me off from a great base. And then each year, even though the market was going down, each year was my best year as we were going into, some of the biggest upheaval we've seen in real estate since, the earlier 1900s. When I think about, what I think creates value for people. So I guess it's all of that, is for me to be hired and to have a sustainable career and to try to have, success in my business or my industry. It all comes down to no smoke and mirrors. There has to be a value base. So, one way or another, people pay for value. If you're selling a widget, they have to see that widget as value. If I'm service industry, so they have to see a value in my service. I tell people all the time, like, I'm not looking to make a home run because, oh, this took me 15 minutes to get your house sold. Like, I need you and want you to feel value. And at the end, I've had all sorts of scenarios where I say, in the end, I'm very confident you're going to feel like, we worked out a good, fair arrangement. And we're talking about somebody who says, well, I've got my family who's buying this out, but I kind of need help to get to the finish line. And I said, we can do, different models of compensation so that you're feeling like this is a fair arrangement. So ultimately, again, that's a tangent to that value proposition. So how can I bring you value? I mean, that to me is the beginning and the end to that business relationship. And so then, you take steps beyond that. So my strategies, are pretty much probably empathy. How, if I was in your shoes, what do I want to see? What questions do I have? What do I want in an advocate on my behalf? How can I show that I'm absolutely, to be trusted by you and can guide you through the process? So, I guess it starts with, the value proposition. And then the next step in that is, just trying to guide someone empathetically through the process. So if I was in your shoes, how could I be best led through this arrangement? And that's a little different for different people, and I try not to customize that. I'm, sometimes, somebody who doesn't want to hear all the details might get more details than they want, or someone who loves all the details, may not get all the, every detail they want, but in general, I'm trying to provide value, and probably provide value through empathy would be a,
Number one
recipe. It's not about sitting down and promising the world to someone. It's amazing how, rare it is in many businesses, including our industry, for people to just, be very, very solid, to start with being a trustworthy, to have strategies to advocate on your behalf, to do, everything or make an effort to do absolutely everything that they've said they're going to do. So for me, coming in and promising the moon is not, I'd rather come and make a positive impression by like, oh, wow, okay, yes. I mean, we're seeing the extra lengths that are being taken instead of talking about all the extra lengths that may be taken beforehand. So to me, that's kind of how I think we try to leave a lasting impression with clients, is to go that extra mile, but not be talking beforehand about how many extra miles we're going to be going, if that makes sense.
One of the things other agents admire about you, Joel, is your consistency. Like year after year you produce and you grow. How do you maintain that consistency and growth and handle the pressures of that? So how do you handle the pressures of the business and keep growing?
Yeah, I think for me, it just probably high expectations of myself. I feel like I know, what, I'm able, generally speaking, what I'm able to accomplish. And so for me, in each interaction, I have that, and each client and each transaction, I have an expectation of how, I want that to be an extremely positive, lasting impression with that person. Even though we're going to have likely navigated bumps in the road and hurdles and, bugs on the windshield, so to speak. But in the end, like, boy, so glad I had this person as an advocate is how I want to leave each client. So that's kind of on the more micro level. And then on the macro level, you apply that to, if I'm going to do something, I want to try to be the best at it, and the best for me is really like transactionally based. How many people can I help, or how many people can I get to trust me and show them that trust was well placed and that they were, very pleased with their selection in the beginning and in the way that the process was handled on their behalf. So how many people you can work with, then that's the comparable as far as stacking up against other agents. Okay, well, yeah, how many deals you close, and I'm not a big, swapping those numbers with people, but internally that's the matrix we hold. So whether it's a, $2 million property or it's a, $20,000 property, I want the client to feel the same in both of those instances, which means you're treating them both the same. You're treating them with a high level of respect, a high level of gratitude because you were given that opportunity, and then working hard on the behalf to leave them with a good impression. And then that has, call it some, organic growth model built right into it, because now you're that lasting impression, given the micro model of walking somebody through this process and trying to leave them with, the feeling of, wow, I'm so glad that, this person was there by my side and got me to get my goals in real estate met, that becomes a macro model, because those people are then willing to advocate on your behalf to other people, which is just like kind of a long-winded explanation of, oh, this is the referral model, of real estate. I guess that's what you'd call it. I haven't really, that's not out yet in the domain. Like, well, what's your model of real estate? In a few years, that's probably going to be it. Well, I'm team model. Oh, we're lead gen model. Oh, we're cold call lead gen model. We are, boutique model, niche, so all these models, and there's a referral model, and the referral model is not, the billboard ad, hoping that phone call is just going to ring. It's more like those lasting impressions, creating word of mouth, and then having that trust base with the people that are getting the word of mouth just to start with. So, you're sitting in the chair in a little different light than if someone's just ringing people up and like, I'm looking for chinks in the armor, because I know, versus somebody that's, you're sitting there and you've already been advocated by one of their friends or one of their family, if that makes sense. I don't know if that paints itself all together, but you'll hear me deep breathe a lot. I mean, that's it. You stop and breathe. It's looking up at the sky sometimes, because it's, it's an intense, it's really fun because of the intensity. But when you're dealing with people's shelter, it's a very intense thing that, people are not, it's not the last thing on their mind. There's probably physical and mental ways you handle pressure. Physically, try to exercise and, breathing and that sort of thing. Sometimes, it's a check. I do look up, look up, beautiful sky today, and there's some sense of grounding there that big, small, and compartmentalizes where things are at. The pressure it is fun for me. It's exciting. It's why, real estate is something I really enjoy, because it's an intense thing for people. When you're dealing with someone's shelter, when you're dealing with where their family's going to be living next month, or currently living, that's a big deal for people. It's oftentimes their very, very biggest investment in their life. So it's intense, and I like that intensity. It's fun to be involved with someone, and that level of trust is, it's impactful. So you handle the stresses and pressures because you understand where that fits in someone's pecking order. It's food, water, shelter are like your top three necessities in life, kind of thing. So so the pressure is fun in a lot of ways. How I handle it is, you try to stay calm, understand that, again, I'm looking out for the client's best interests. It's not trying to get too wrapped up in trying to force something when it's not to be forced. And at the same time, as we had discussed before, sometimes it is that extra effort or a strategy, thinking about it sometimes when you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and can't get back to sleep, and it's churning itself in your mind. And then you can find an angle that helps get someone from start to finish in real estate that likely wouldn't have been in the mind of someone else, because you're, it's important to me just like it's important to them. So I think it's probably the placement of why there's pressure is how it's something that I can handle. And in some ways I thrive on it, but there's challenge. I mean, for sure, it's kind of that same thing. Certain times of year, you can't, you can't filter call volume, you can't, when it just so happens that, there's these busy times, you have to be there for each and every client. And sometimes there's only so many hours in the day, and you can only take so many calls. And so, those are the challenges and probably the frustration, because I can feel like, again, if I'm in your shoes, sometimes, hearing back, a few hours later when something's right on the, it's so intense for you at that moment. And yet, I'm in a meeting or something and it's a couple of hours that pass. Sometimes that's catharsis, and it's good because it allows someone to kind of calm down. But those are challenges that, just you have to deal with, because, and having good support staff. I mean, absolutely, it's not, I've got 2 full-time people that are there, grinding and working hard on behalf of each one of these clients that are also there. So that's another way to defray the pressure, as well as having, good people around you that also care to that same level, that want to see, clients, happy and taken care of, and given guidance through the process. Definitely, I think there's some numbers goals, again, trying to, continue to offer a high level of service, but then ramp up the business, which gets more into business management, which is even what I studied in college. So the business side of things, and feeling like I'm running a business less than a, service. There's great, doctors are service, lawyers are service, so there's nothing wrong with that. But to be creating a little bit more of a business model is something that's exciting and fun for me, but also something that, at different points in my career, that hasn't been, a huge focus. And so it's a bit of a turn or a paradigm shift to think of okay, thinking as a business person and growth through business management, as opposed to just growth through, additional sales on a little more micro level. So that is, and then, you and I discussed it too. I mean, just the interaction, the daily interaction of trying to win for clients is something that it'll be fun for me for 50 years, when I can get someone to the finish line, and if I've especially helped strategize, something that just doesn't seem like normal common sense to get someone to that finish. I mean, those are just, between negotiating, people through prices, inspections, achieving a value on their home they may not have thought they'd getting them into a home they, thought they might not be able to get in a competitive environment. Just those, that winning on behalf of others thing that we've kind of discussed is that's a kick every single time, which thankfully, for me, that's probably some of the driving force behind like, hey, let's go do more transactions, and service more people. It's also like for me, selfishly like, hey, there's wins for myself, but winning for these other people, the more transactions you're doing, the more you get that almost on a daily basis, calling somebody up this morning before I was here, doing a final walkthrough of these people. Husband hasn't even seen the house. They're from Seattle. They're coming over and it's just like, and I'm just telling them, this is stunning. It's just like, this is one of those, you drive up, blood pressure's lower and you're just looking out at your, you could play football on a full football field here. Oh, the fountain, and they're just, super excited over the phone. I mean, just
joy.
It is. It's bringing other people joy and just, hey, I was a part of that. Awesome. I mean, there's just that never gets old.
To articulate is what's most dear to them, what they value most, in part because I believe they're just being that day to day. So looking ahead, say many decades from now, when you pass, what, not out of vanity, but just out of your value set, what do you hope people will remember about you?
Oh, I mean, geez, I'm a little young for that question. Thank you, though. Thanks for the somber death tone we took here. But leave it. Yeah, I like it. It's a great, it's a very valid, good question. I would say just, an off the cuff answer would just be that, somebody that cared about other people, and that tried to be great. It's like, there's this weird thing, and I've had, as you've heard certain people pass, like, someone was a, good man or good woman, or that was a great man, kind of thing, like, definitely, pushed to be great at things, not overall, not, trying to be more than I am, but just, trying to be great. I want to be a great business person. I want to be a great dad. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great, brother and uncle and friend, to people. So, I mean, just, guy who dared to be great, strove to be great, and cared about other people. I mean, that would just be having probably just mentally broach that subject in my mind. Those would be a few things that come to mind. And with whatever comes of that.